The 13th first got to Vietnam in '67 in Korat, and if somebody says something otherwise, then that person's probably right, because I haven't looked at it recently.
So '66, we started flying out of Korat Airfield.
So the Wild Weasel mission is what we do here, which means that we are the first people into a target area. We're trying to lure surface-to-air missile systems into shooting at us so that we can shoot them back with our high-speed anti-radiation missile.
Although today they perform the suppression of enemy air defenses mission, their lineage begins with a vastly different mission set. The 13th Fighter Squadron can be traced back to World War II as a training squadron for bomber aircraft, but they didn't receive fighters until Vietnam. In 1966, the Air Force began sending F-105s to Southeast Asia, and shortly after, they switched to the F-4 airframe. The 13th Tactical Fighter Squadron was engaged in MiG combat against enemy aircraft at the time, and the squadron executed 11 MiG kills before being inactivated at the end of the Vietnam War. In 1976, the squadron was reactivated at MacDill Air Force Base, Florida as a training squadron, where it remained for 6 years before inactivation, and finally the 13th found its home at Misawa Air Base, Japan in 1985. They were redesignated as we know them today, the 13th Fighter Squadron, in 1991.
Basically about 91 time frame, so initial Desert Storm, F-4Gs were essentially passing off the torch for the Wild Weasel mission to F-16s. So our major focus is basically finding surface-to-air missile threats, getting them to target us so the strikers can get in without being shot at, and then we make them pay for it and we kill them.
Occasionally when you ask me questions too, I'll start talking and I'll black out. F-16, one pilot, one tail, one engine, the way God intended.
Bottom line, it's a multi-role platform, and specifically here to Misawa and the 13th Fighter Squadron, we've basically taken on the role of the Wild Weasels.
F-16 is an awesome platform, and you can do a lot of work with it. The biggest thing the F-16 community brings to the table is the fact that we're masters at integrating the combat air forces in to win. So we're not the best at any one thing. We're pretty good at everything. We know how to bring in specialty aircraft for specific parts of the mission in order to obtain our objective.
How do I feel right now?
Yeah.
Sweaty? I don't know. Got the mask, you got all the fog in there, and then you got the anti-exposure suit on, which you probably can't even see right now. The idea is we get out of Dodge, basically, so if the airfield's unusable due to chemical or biological weapons, we don this stuff and we get the jets and ourselves out of there so we can go fight. The plan is not necessarily for us to fight against gear, so much as us to get to a condition where we can fight.
Tell me a little bit about what that's like.
Oh, it's awful. And the biggest thing is you can't have any claustrophobic problems. So you are stuck in this rubber mask, and sometimes the fan doesn't work quite as well as you want it to be. And so you just have to keep your heart rate down and your breathing normal.
This is their MS-2000 strobe. and it's dead. So my job down here is basically to provide our Panther pilots with the world's greatest and safest aircrew flight equipment. Basically just keeping them safe in the air while they're flying, if they were to eject from the aircraft, or evading the enemy on the ground. Our goal is just to preserve their life basically, and make sure that they're lethal in combat.
So what's the importance of them having all of this on them as they fly?
So while they're flying, especially the oxygen masks, so at higher altitudes they can actually breathe. Their G suits, they keep them conscious during high G maneuvers. And then during the ejection, we also pack the parachutes, which are very important. Survival kits are also under the seat. And then on the ground, their survival vests that they wear have a lot of survival components that helps keep them alive and hidden from the enemy.